This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Lauren Cohan about The Walking Dead: Dead City. How are you, Lauren?
I'm good. Abe, how are you doing?
Good, good. This is a role that you've been playing for a very long time. What do you feel like you've gotten to know about Maggie in the many years that you've been able to play her?
Yeah, I have gotten to know that she has found coping skills that we're going to get to unpack as time goes on. It's a pretty simple way to say that if you spend this long living one way, the most terrifying thing you could possibly do is try to do something different. Um, And I think that this is really what makes this spinoff that we're doing the most interesting for me because we actually do get to sort of exit the building and come in through another door and say, okay, cool, new rules to life. And what does it look like? It's like a different chemistry.
I have to actually go back and look because I felt like I was like, oh, Maggie was in it from the very beginning, right? And then I was like, oh no, she actually only started in season two, but it feels like you've been around pretty much as long as everyone else. Do you feel like an original part of the show, or do you still feel like there's that piece of it that you weren't in at the beginning?
Oh, yeah, I know. Do I have that like I should have gone to a better school and tried harder when I was 17 chip on my shoulder? No. I have I don't have that feeling. I feel like I came in to the show and because I still got to come in with Scott and with Emily, Scott Wilson and Emily Kinney, and I feel like the three of us I don't know. I guess it was just it was a nice thing. So sort of like a prelude. It wasn't, but if you could say like Atlanta was the journey to the farm, and then so we got to sort of we were always at the farm waiting for everybody. But I think that that is more testament to just feeling like when you go through as many years as we all did together, I still look back sometimes. And I got to have a double experience because I got to watch the first season and be such a fan of the show and then get to join it. But no, I don't forget that I wasn't in season one. I do feel like I've had the kind of thing that only time can give you with everybody, which is time.
It's also strange to think that Negan's only been around pretty much as long as Glenn hasn't, because
Yeah.
Glenn still feels like such a piece of this show's mythology, but it's been a long time since he's been alive.
Yeah. That's another example. I never think of Jeff as having come in later, because he sort of go through, and we went through the harshest parts of the show together. So it's
What is
like,
your relationship like with him, and how has that evolved over the years?
oh, I mean, we didn't have that much time together in the earlier parts of the show, and now it's like, I mean, you couldn't really ask for better. It's like we get to do. It's a funny thing too, because I was thinking this last night because we had a really nice scene together yesterday, and well, not a nice scene, no spoilers, but a nice scene because it's nice to act with Jeffrey because it's like the kind of the thing I was saying a second ago. It's like history there's just no replacement for it. And we know so well who our characters are to each other. And so in a world where we come into this new show, and that's all the excitement. It's just like all the tapestry of seeing Maggie and seeing Negan interacting with people that we build new relationships. Then there's a total shift, a total energy shift when he and I have something together because for better or for worse, so you've spent years thinking and feeling and creating cellular memory for for who this person is to you, and that thing may change and that thing may you know evolve, but ultimately it's just there's such an ease in how we are together, and the best part about it is that we have each other's backs so well, and it is such a magical feeling that I will never lose gratitude for because this can all be so I don't know. We're just really lucky. I'm directing an episode right now, and last night I directed a scene with Jeff and I in it, and this has often been the case as things have gone on, and especially with doing this new show, is that you do get to find these little silos of creativity where you're just like, okay, this moment is about me connecting with cinematography. This moment is about me connecting with set design, all these like little bubbles of creativity. And then Jeff and I get to do this scene, and it's like, this is a moment about Jeff and I are just in our little zone, and you can float through, and the more gently you step and the less you actually have to do, because that you're all you're doing is allowing the history of the relationship that exists to show you things, and you're just there with your friend, and you're just there with your friend. You're doing this little thing that will end up being, you know, in a show and shared with a lot of people, but it is such a pleasure. It is like such a pleasure. And I just love him so much. And I just think that we're really lucky that people were interested enough in these two characters and in the dynamic and in the potential for growth and change and drama in their dynamic, that we got to do this show. And I'm so lucky that we have a showrunner, Eli Jarnet, who wrote a series that takes us to a whole new territory for the Walking Dead world, where it's essentially the things that you would think were the easy parts of life, of just interacting with people and learning how to raise your kid and how to build a new world and find a place to be. And ultimately, the hardest thing that actually, honestly, we do all know is facing yourself, is far more challenging than any of the things that we've seen these Walking Dead characters ever face. So that's the beautiful irony of our world. But yeah, we are definitely in for the ride. And I've said it before, but like, if I get to continue to evolve the way that I have been able to with her, and continue to get like good story and places to go, then I just don't know why it would ever need to end, because it's such a vessel for just unpacking the relationship with oneself that is pretty interesting, against the backdrop of the apocalypse. So I feel really lucky, and I know that Jeff and I are really lucky. It's really cool, man.
One of the things about watching this franchise for so long is you see all these, rural landscapes and, southern farmlands. And this show, that's not what's happening. And you're in all these like sort of key. What is it like to, I know a lot of the show is filmed in New Jersey. What is it like to sort of simulate this real life place that people are supposed to recognize?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, taking the characters out of Georgia, I mean, the first thing that's like just on a production level, it's so much fun to go and find places, and give people a version of New York City that is not how you see it today. And to say, especially with this season, to explore these themes of like, what is the old world? What was it? And if you did give yourself the chance to dream about recreating it, what would you focus on? And each character in our story, based upon their own characteristics, are sort of like romanticizing about different aspects of their past and reinventing themselves or not. And it's a much wider palette than we were able to have in Georgia, because it was a different show. And it's really fun because we get to have this juxtaposition of New York culture with this survivalist mentality, and with people with these sort of like just philosophies and agendas that never got to be quite as potent, because we also are dealing with a much smaller group of people, and we can get very specific about what they're about. And so the change in the show is sort of tenfold, and that's another thing that has just made it feel like an entirely new ride.
This franchise has a huge, very, vocal fan base. What have you
Yeah.
heard about the response to this show? Has anything surprised you?
We did this really fun, I don't know what they call the actual survey or study or something, but you basically end up with a word map at the end of the season, and something that we were all really excited to see, pop up. So the more the word has been mentioned, the more people have said, sorry, the more the word has been mentioned, the bigger it is on the word map. And the word dark was one of the biggest things. And that was really gratifying for myself and the other writers and producers at the end of season one, because I think that to go on this journey and to say like, okay, how and why do you take two people who, you know, one who's apparently can't let go of her resentment towards him, understandably, and yet doesn't want to kill him. Like that, what is this key in here? Like what is unsolved? And how do you do that in a way that is really respectful of the human condition? It's like for Maggie, there's something that Negan gives her. There's something that him remaining alive still gives her. And there's something for Negan in however much he understands why it happens and whatever it means to him in his life that do make these two linked in a very interesting way. And ultimately, I know, at least for Maggie, it's this sense of the way that I have gone, the way that I have traveled through my life to this point has been functional, but namely now that I have a kid who is very affected, and he's old enough to be very affected by all the idiosyncrasies of parenting, of parenting styles. I'm really forced to look at it, and this is like this little triangle. Basically, it's like, how has Negan and her an inability to process and fully be real about what his effect on her is affecting my relationship with my son, and not just affecting it but threatening its existence. And ultimately, I think I'm not a parent, but I I think that having a young adult see you for who you are and be willing to tell you, and having a responsibility to let them become their own person, and to see all the ways that you might be helping or hindering that, is such a wild dynamic to have with all these other factors. And it has allowed me to look at her more deeply, and to look at and to just be excited by the road that we take into our show. It's like, you know, we are still living in a world of the dead, but it is this idea that it's really this idea that like we can blame the trauma and we can blame the situation, but how much of it have we allowed? It's kind of like workaholism or any ism, you know, it's like, how much of this have I allowed to keep me in a behavioral rut that is very unhealthy? And now the scariest thing I've been asked to do is to change, and to see another person fully, and to I don't know. I mean, really, honestly, this year, the most exciting thing is like this rage gives me a place to hide. And when you don't have a place to hide, who are you and what do you do? And and you'll have to watch season 2 and find out.
Certainly a lot to unpack. Before
Yeah.
I let you go, we're big fans of awards here at Awards Buzz, and so I'm curious if there is a show or performance outside the Walking Dead universe that you've seen recently that you feel
Oh,
is particularly awards worthy.
oh gosh, this is terrible. I've watched like no TV lately. I mean, I've actually been watching 6 Feet Under, but I think it's past its awards time.
I just
Um,
talked to Alan Poole today, who worked on
oh,
that show and is
really?
now doing Tokyo Vice. So 6 Feet
Oh
Under,
my
it's a good time to
God.
reminisce. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, no, I'm in a real like rewatch phase of life. But let me just think for a second. There is a show, I haven't even watched it, so I'm shouting it out, but it's the new Benedict Cumberbatch show where he's a magician or something. So that's actually on my list for this weekend. So should we check in after the weekend? Because but my friend's like, you have to watch it, you're gonna go crazy. Yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask. I'm terrible. I feel so bad that I don't have an answer. I'm like, well, we're in the thick of it.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy that. It's such a
Yeah.
pleasure to get to talk to you and looking forward to season 2.
Okay, thanks so much. Good to talk to you too, Abe.